This quick video will explore the best ways to make the most of your time so that you aren't stuck scrambling to complete assignments right before the deadline. We subscribe to the philosophy of work hard, play hard, and we want to help you learn how to do that. We know that university students don't have time to implement a 15-step program to improve time management. In fact, not many people do. So instead, we want to share some tricks that can help make your life just a little bit easier and help you free up some time so that you can get back to doing the things you actually want to be doing. The first thing we should talk about is procrastination. Every student we know does it to some degree, but the goal is to minimize it. Realistically ask yourself how many hours a day you spend online wasting time. Or how often do you promise to work for an hour, but in the end you get nothing done? Or maybe you're someone who's just easily distracted. But don't worry, there's hope for you. So the million-dollar question is, how do we beat procrastination? Well, for starters, it's hard to avoid procrastination entirely, but here are some tips to minimize it. Turn your cell phone off. Your friends will still be your friends when you turn it back on. If you don't need your internet for what you're working on, disconnect it or use a social media blocker so you don't end up on Facebook 12 times in an hour. Also, study in shorter bursts. It's better to study for one focused hour than 5 hours of strained, unfocused effort. The next thing to address is organization. Organizing things in your own way is the first key to relieving some of the stress of feeling like you don't have enough time in your day. One of the best ways to get yourself organized is by writing things down. Use a calendar. This will serve as your master list, and you can write down all of your appointments or deadlines and reminders. Then, carry around a notebook or a scrap piece of paper, or even use a memo pad on your cell phone. Use this to write down anything that comes up during the day that you need to remember. An example would be email Professor Smith or pick up birthday gift for mom. This way you don't have to waste valuable energy and space in your brain remembering a million different things. The next logical question is what to do with all the lists at the end of the day. Remember that notepad or scrap piece of paper you were writing things down on? Well, at the end of the day, transfer everything from that onto your calendar. Write down your ideal deadline for that task. But be careful not to set yourself up for failure by setting unrealistic timelines by cramming too much into a period of time. The important thing is to go back to your calendar at least once a day to make sure you are on task and on track to meet deadlines. We want to stress that you don't have to give up your social life in order to get the marks you want in class. In fact, most of the top students we know actually have great social lives. It's just that when they do sit down to work, they spend their time being fully focused. The opposite of this is a student who sits down and studies while socializing with friends or browsing the internet. This second student will end up spending more hours pseudo-working and not get the same opportunity to socialize as the first student. Here are 3 favorite tips to get more done in less time. Number 1, carry a book or article that you need to read around with you and read it in between class or on the bus or even while you're waiting in line. Number 2, find a few quiet places on campus or around your house that you can study free of distractions. If you can rotate through a couple different spots, it prevents getting bored of the same place. And number 3, study by yourself. We often want to study with friends, but in reality, not very much studying gets done. Ask yourself if group study really is the best option in this case. And remember that there's often nothing better than quiet, focused study time. Now, we're sure that you know that pulling all-nighters is not the best thing to do, but we often hear students claim it's unavoidable. Well, we want to prove that myth wrong. A surefire way to avoid all-nighters is by starting early. Chip away at larger assignments by doing a little bit each day. 20 minutes, 6 days a week, over the course of 2 weeks adds up to 4 hours of work on an assignment. That adds up when you consider that 20 minutes a day is a pretty small investment. We also recognize that not everyone works well with short work periods, so experiment to find what works best for you. But the key here is starting early. The last thing we want to discuss is creating a balanced schedule. It's important to not try to do too much in one day if you know that you realistically can't accomplish it. Instead, space schoolwork out during times when you know you'll feel energized. Setting realistic goals is key. And don't be afraid to take time for yourself to keep you sane and ensure that the time you dedicate to working actually results in work getting done. Notice that in our sample schedule, we have frequent breaks that take you away from your computer or desk and are a healthy way to refocus. We're confident that if you use at least a few of these strategies and are realistic with your goals, you'll end up with more free time than you had before. Remember that getting started is usually the hardest part, but once you're past that, it's often the case that you'll want to just keep working. If that's the case, then go for it. The important thing to remember is work hard. If you're not focused, you're wasting your time. So take a break, get your blood flowing, and then try again later. If you're still feeling unsure about things, we suggest talking to your professor or TA, or coming into the Chapman Learning Commons and discussing things with a peer academic coach. Lastly, we also have an assignment calculator on our website that you can use to figure out what you need to have completed each day to ensure that you finish your assignment in time without pulling an all-nighter. Well, we hope you found this video useful, and feel free to leave us a comment below or check out some of our other student toolkits.